Thank you so much for being here today. Really excited to get into this panel discussion. So my name is Amy Tsang. I'm head of Europe at the Mills Fabrica, and I have the pleasure of moderating the very first panel discussion of the day. So to give a very quick introduction, the Mills Fabrica is a global innovation platform accelerating sustainability across the textiles and agri-food industries. So through our VC fund, partnerships, co-working space, events, and Fabrica X, which is our innovation gallery and concept store, we support founders, brands, and industry leaders to build a better future for our planet. So we have two locations, two offices, one in Hong Kong and one in London. And today I'm here with two of my colleagues. We actually have a small stand just located next to the Innovation Hive, so please do come by and say hi if you want to learn a bit more. And there we're also showcasing a curated edit of our Performance Without Toxicity exhibition, which is actually currently on show in our London office until 17th of July. So if you ever find yourself in that city, please do come by and take a look. So let's get started. So this panel is all around natural fibres, which are often overlooked when it comes to creating high quality, durable and functional materials. Yet in many cases they exceed the properties of synthetics while also being kinder to our planet. So in this panel we're going to unpack some of the common misconceptions of natural fibres, explore what makes them truly extraordinary and how they could unlock the innovative applications that our industry so urgently needs. So we have a fantastic lineup of innovators and experts on this panel, which I'm going to introduce very quickly. So starting with Idan, so he's the co-founder and CEO of Fibe, developing technology to manufacture scalable, affordable and sustainable natural fibres from the most abundant agricultural residues in the world. Then next to Idan we have Sarah Angold, who is the founder and CEO of 29 Acacia, transforming banana tree waste into high-performance textiles that feel just like cotton, but with 83% lower CO2 emissions, with pricing already in line with mainstream textiles. And then we have Marie, who's the Textile and Sustainability Manager at the Alliance for European Flax, Linen and Hemp. So they're an organization that unites the European flax, linen and hemp industry, representing 10,000 companies from farm to textiles, aiming to make these natural fibers the preferred sustainable fibers worldwide. And then last but not least, we have Amanda Turner, who's the Chief Product Officer at PLNTMATTER, a supply chain technology company that converts regenerative plant feedstocks into high-performance, fully traceable fibers and materials through processes designed to mirror the intelligence of living systems. So today the fashion industry is, of course, heavily reliant on fossil fuel-derived synthetics, making up to over 2/3 of all textile fibers. This, of course, fuels the climate crisis and also microplastic pollution. So it's obvious that there is a terrible negative impact on our environment, but there also is growing scientific evidence to show that there are human health risks as well, which is incredibly frightening. So some would argue that natural fibres could be the obvious solution. So my first question goes to you, Mary. So natural fibres have always been with us. I mean, flax has been spun for 30,000 years. What do you think is the single biggest misconception that the industry still has about flax and hemp, and why do you think brands struggle to adopt it at scale?
Well, I think they only see part of the story because they know about the certified origin and the traceability and the environmental footprint, but they're still not very much aware of all the creative and innovative potential of the bast fibers. They may see the plain fabric for the summer shirt, but they still don't see all the possibilities, starting from all the different fiber lengths to the different possibilities in spinning, in twisting, in weaving, the great dye affinity. So that there's obviously a lot of potential. If you see the example of knits, for instance, that was linen jersey was like invented 15 years ago. It's still relatively young. Before that, we didn't know how to make it. So I think what I would say is the biggest barrier is that they cannot still project their innovations and the textile developments that will make them unique for their brands, because they don't want to have the same linen as other brands.
So I guess moving on to the innovators, I'll start with you, Idan. What do you think are the key benefits of your material, and how does it positively impact the rest of the supply chain?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. So I'll kind of segment it in two ways, because what we're really developing here is a process that can be applied in various different crops. Now, the key thing that we're looking for is to try to drastically reduce the cost of residue-based fibers to make them a lot more applicable in many use cases. Because for us, we've seen that to be the number one limiting factor for its adoption. So we developed a process that is about half the price of the standard state-of-the-art of the technology that you typically find. So if you were to vertically integrate and produce fibers from the same waste, you typically get about twice the price as if you were to integrate it through our process. So that is the key thing here. But the second benefit in the technology itself is the sustainability, which I think is going to be a common theme here across every natural fiber solution that's being discussed. Significantly less water, saving land, allowing land to be used for food production, which has its benefits. But what's been really interesting is, as we've moved to applying this technology on various different crops, so we work predominantly with various different oilseed crops, we work with potato residues as the application points. We found a lot of benefits in the product. Now, this is still something we're exploring, because every residue we work with has its own merits, it has its own hurdles that we need to overcome. But there's some common themes to the benefits. The first one is you got this really nice way to validate the traceability of a product, which we found. So often one of the challenges with making existing fibers more sustainable through the ways of growing them, so for example, organic materials, is it can be a bit difficult to validate that material is actually being done in the right way. Whilst if your material inherently, the feedstock is inherently sustainable, then it makes it much easier for the brands, for the users to understand the sustainability of the process. And then the other one I'd mention is there's always these really interesting performance benefits you have in these crops, and they tend to be different depending on the feedstock, but some crops tend to have higher elongation, some crops tend to have stronger tensile strength, some crops tend to be really fine or have these microstructures that lend themselves really well for yarn production. So there is a really big opportunity here, and as we apply it on more crops, we'll learn, but those are just some of the benefits.
And Sarah, same question to you.
Sure, thank you, Amy. Well, as you mentioned, at 29 Acacia, we make textiles out of agricultural waste. Banana waste is our first focus, and my jeans and my shirt are made out of agricultural banana waste. So I guess the question is, why banana? Well, fun fact for you all, especially if you're going to a pub quiz later this week, is that the banana tree only fruits once ever. So you grow a banana tree, you chop off the fruit, you chop the tree down, and you burn it. And that is 150 million tons of waste just incinerated for no value every year. Now we can make this material to the moon and back 10 times every year without using land, water, energy to grow crops, for example, like cotton for a fashion. Meanwhile, we're raising hundreds of thousands of farmers out of poverty by buying their waste. Ultimately, we've got a growing population. We should be using resource to feed that growing population. We should be using the byproducts of the food industry in order to clothe ourselves. We can do this. Idan is proving this can work. Many of us here proving this can work, right? And honestly, we're not doing it yet because we're a bit fucking lazy. We love our linear supply chains, and that has got to change.
Sarah, Amanda, so coming to you, earlier I touched on a bit about the kind of human health impact that these synthetic materials and toxic chemistries can have on us. So do you want to kind of maybe expand a bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what's really important for everybody to know, and it's something that I've come to learn in my experience in the wellness industry, that's my background, I've been in wellness and health and performance space for many years, is that the materials that we put on our bodies actually interact with our biology and our physiology. There's a whole scientific field around this, it's called epigenetics, and it really defines how the environment around our bodies actually has chemical reactions that turn on different genetic codes that tell the body to produce certain proteins. So when you think of that in the context of materials that you're putting on your body, when you're putting something that is a synthetic fiber, has toxic chemistry on it, it has chemical treatments, those are signals that you're sending to your chemistry within your body itself that then is turning on a defense mechanism. So it has to fight and attack against these alternative materials that are in disharmony with your physical body. So natural materials is an amazing solution for that because you already have a harmonious environment that your body can be in its optimal state. So that's something that I think is really relevant for everybody to understand, is it's not just about the technical performance. We have tons of third-party testing saying that we outperform conventionals in tensile strength, abrasion, like you were talking about. There's a lot of different test methods out there. We can prove performance, no problem. But it's a bigger concept when you actually understand how the materials are actually physically interacting with your bodies, and you can make that choice. And I think it's something that brands also need to be very cognizant of and communicate to their consumers. And that's a way to give that space for integrating more natural materials.
So, I mean, it's quite clear there's so many fantastic benefits of all the solutions that you're developing. So what do you find to be the biggest barriers in achieving wider industry adoption of your material? Idan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll try to constrain myself because it has been a very, very difficult process. Now, I think in the past when I was asked these questions, I would tend to go down a line of lack of funding in this space as being one, or lack of standardization across it. But I mean, the founders and I were having conversations about these exact same things, and I think we came to the conclusion that it is just generally a lack of urgency and a lack of willingness to just adopt new materials. That's kind of the bottom line of it, and everything else is a function of that. So the investment doesn't tend to come because there used to be this idea that you can fund startups kind of, and you'll build it and they will come model. I think in the past, that's proven not really to work super well, which is why there was a generation of startups that weren't, had their difficulties in the past. But if there was a very clear pipeline that the actual end users want to have for why they're even looking for new materials, what is the performance, what are the problems that they're trying to solve here, then it would make it so much easier, because we're often finding a big hurdle for us is, what is the exact product? How do we modify our fibers? What do we do in the R&D to make it that it is actually applicable and solving the biggest amount of problems for our future clients? And that doesn't tend to be the case. And I think if there was a much clearer requirement and end goal for us, it would be super beneficial. Now, I'm not trying to just kind of say that that's the main problem here. I mean, there's so many things that we need to do. We need to scale up our process. We need to reduce the cost. We need to improve the quality of the product itself. However, if there was much clearer guidelines, I think it will make it much easier for us to allow for the mass adoption of these kind of materials.
Amanda, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you. I'm totally on board with what you're saying, and I think that there's a challenge because there's such complexity in the supply chain and within brands. Every brand wants something slightly different, and to be an innovator and try to solve for everybody's problems, like you're saying, is a real challenge. We can only be in so many places at the same time and doing so many different things. And so I think that tends to be a bit of the struggle of adoption. You know, I sit on a brand side as well, so I understand the inner workings of a brand, and a supply chain team only has so much capacity to think about certain things, and they need to adopt what's commercially available that fits into their existing operations. So I think there's a bit of a bridge that still needs to be built there to connect those dots so that the innovators are carried along a little bit further, because you know, we sit so far out of the supply chain. We have incredible supply chain partners that are our connection to the brand, but they can only do so much as well, and it really depends on the demand has to pull that forward. So it's connecting those dots is the biggest challenge, I think, as on the innovator side.
Speaking of brands, Marie, coming to you next. So for all the brands in the room, what's the one thing you wish they understood about natural fibers that would make the switch an obvious decision?
I think what they should do is try to learn a bit more, understand a little bit more, and I see a lot of interest of brands who want to know how it's made, where it comes from, meet with the producers. So that's something that is very positive, and we do organize trips to the fields and to meet the producers every year that are more and more successful every year. I think thinking about the innovation, now we see flax linen composites that are being used in everything from sports equipments to music instruments to transport, even the space industry. So I mean, there is really room for innovation even in textiles. And what my advice would be to start from the fiber properties and the strength. Looking, for instance, at flax linen's incredible thermoregulating qualities, the absorption, the moisture management, thermoregulation, and that does inspire brands. If you look at now sports or sportswear, you see like double layer textiles, triple layers, like in Moncler, C's brand, and well, many others. So what they do is look at the fiber performance and add some functionalization on top of it, so projecting it into real performance. And also, very important, look at the knowledge, the textile expertise. We are very lucky in Europe that not only do we have the fiber that is grown in Western Europe, but we have also the whole transformation steps from the hackling, combing, the different types of spinning still present in Europe, and there's a huge potential in collaboration. That's also our role, to connect the brands and also these spinners, these weavers who are working on innovative developments.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you said it quite well. Collaboration is obviously key, and I think the audience would be really interested to hear about maybe some success stories, commercial partnerships with brands, partners, and also some maybe challenges you've had to overcome along the way. So Sarah, I know you have a good example you want to share.
Yeah, I've been unusually quiet. I've been waiting for my moment. You know, one of the big challenges to actually adoption at scale in the market is that there's a real valley of death, and you know, this is kind of building on what the panel's been saying, between innovators who are making 5-10 meters of material in a lab. Now, the difference between making material in a lab and at scale, we've discovered, is 18 months to 2 years of development. You make a beautiful material and you're like, I've made it, this is going to be brilliant, the industry loves it. And then you go and work with a big manufacturing partner, and what you make is an absolute pile of crap. because once you are out of your lab, you're out of being able to regulate all of the conditions perfectly. There's a huge bunch of innovation to be done at scale in order to make that material work again. And so, you know, for me, manufacturing pilots is that big gap, and that's the kind of valley of death where I feel most innovators are going to die. Because it's really hard to get those kinds of partnerships, because what we're talking about here is not partnerships between innovators and other small producers. We're talking about partnerships between innovators and the largest global producers in the world. So, you know, I know you wanted some examples, and I'm more than happy to give them. We've done 11 manufacturing pilots now, including world-leading billion-dollar mills like Arvind, Basker Denim, working with RDD, a number of whom are in the room here today. And as I said, we've had to develop our product over a number of months and into years in order to make it work at scale. And the reason why is suddenly you put it on in a 3-mile-long factory on a giant industrial loom with much higher tensions, going at a bajillion reps per minute, snap, snap, snap on that yarn, right? And that doesn't happen in a hand loom. That doesn't happen even in a smaller production factory. And so at that point, we're going right back to basics, not just to how do I spin this differently, how do I weave this differently, but like, how do I literally develop our process, our enzymatic and manufacturing technology at the beginning? How do I develop our technology in order to solve that problem so that doesn't happen at the top end of the supply chain? And ultimately what you need in order to have that feedback loop is these partnerships with these big manufacturers. And the truth is, we've been incredibly lucky that most manufacturers have stepped up, not just to give their time, but to give their resource. Like, we're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of resource. You know, every time Arvind downtimes their machinery in order to play banana with us, you know, they are delaying their big production for Ralph Lauren and all of the other big brands they work with, right? So this is a big investment. You know, if I give them some screwed up fiber and it clogs up their machine, you know, that's a huge deal. So there's a real trust building piece here, and I think we can do it, and I think we're really excited. We're now making thousands of meters of this product, which has been a huge hurdle to get over. But there's got to be those conversations between innovators and those big developers. And those conversations have got to be full of empathy and understanding and shared drive for innovation and a different outcome. Because it's tough, it's difficult. It fails constantly, but at the end of it, what you have is a solution where we're going to the brands now, not saying, hey, do you want to give this a little try? We're going to the brands with like, this is a material that's ready. It is priced alongside the rest of the market of commercial fibers. We can make thousands of meters. We've proven it with the biggest mills in the world. And I think, you know, building what you were saying, Idan, earlier, like a big challenge for brands is now trust. Because we're achieving technology that's got cheaper. We're achieving technology that can scale. And now it's a case of disrupting that zeitgeist so that brands trust that this can be the next phase in fashion's future.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it's almost like you need to continuously co-develop your solution with all supply chain partners and really kind of have their support on board throughout.
And I have, by the way, got some of those like really, really crappy fabrics that we made. I've got some on our stand just here. Because sometimes it's interesting to see the like crap you had to go through in order to get to the good stuff, right?
Journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So next one is a pretty big and bold question. What is one industry practice that everyone in this room knows is broken, but nobody wants to be the first to stop doing? Who wants to tackle that one? Amanda, I'm looking at you.
I don't have an answer of one thing that is broken. I think it's communication and collaboration, exactly what you're saying. It takes commitment and understanding that this is a shared journey together. And I think collaboration with brands and breaking that cycle of testing new materials in a pilot and then not moving it further, and then no longer having those materials available because the innovators weren't able to survive. So I think the ones that are here for the long run. We've been through the challenges, we're on the other side. We have done our homework, we are ready, and it's getting connected with brands that actually want to commit to something bigger, to actually replace the conventional materials within their existing line. It's not just to do a PR moment and to say we've done something cool, it's to actually make a difference, change your supply chain, change your material portfolio, and build on what we've already done. We've done a lot of the groundwork. We have done all the testing, we've done all the trials, we've done all the validation. You know, for us personally, we have over 50 mill partners in 8 different countries, and we've tested our materials. We know that they work, and so it's just getting that communication within the brands and the adoption at a bigger scale.
So no one else want to
can I
chime
take
in?
off a slight tangent, which is that for any innovators in the room who are listening, I know that we talked briefly about funding earlier, but investment is tough at the moment, right? It's really hard to fund the kinds of projects we're doing. And they're conversations that we're having within the community a lot. And it's easy to get kind of, downhearted about that piece because, there's a whole investment policy piece that disconnects and that's broken there. But I suppose I just want to give a little message of hope around that, which is, if one more VC asks me if I can incorporate AI into our banana textiles, I'm going to lose my shit. But ultimately, the bubbles that we're in right now will burst. They will move on, right? As it becomes clearer and clearer that at the end of this sort of big AI B2B SaaS bubble, I won't be wearing AI clothes. I'm still going to be wearing actual clothes. And as weather events, as everything kind of moves forward, and it becomes increasingly clear that business as usual is simply not an option, we are going to see availability of that funding. We're going to see solutions in that funding, in that investment space. I already see these conversations happening, and they will escalate. And I think also, as policy begins to keep up, if you look at the policy that's incoming over the next 2, 3, 4 years, you can see the externalities of unsustainable materials are gradually being priced. It's 2% here, 3% there. But as that moves forward and gathers momentum, and as the risks around conventional fibers increase, what we're going to see from a resilience play is brands making that move. And the truth is that when brands make that move and show that appetite, investors will follow. And so I think there's real hope in this space. So for anyone out there who's innovating right now, I think the future is bright here, although times still feel tough.
I think we are running short on time, but I want to conclude this panel by asking each of you a final question, which is in 2 parts. So the first part is, what is your ambition for your business? And second, what is your ask of the industry? So Idan, I'll come to you first.
So our ambition is to make a material that is applicable in mass applications, essentially. We're not trying to make a luxury material. We think that there is really great solutions in that space. And we really want to make something that can be used at scale. So everything we're talking about, everything we're working towards is scale. That's kind of what united the founders when making Fibe. We just had a pretty critical milestone in terms of enabling that. So we received £3 million from the Royal Academy of Engineering a few weeks ago, which will be used, to build a pilot facility in the UK. So allow us to demonstrate the technology for the first time in an industrial application. Hopefully that can allow us to de-risk it, to be able to convert our projects with brands and with the textile industry into actual sales agreements. So that's everything that we're working towards. So that plant will be commissioned in 2027. And we really, really welcome anyone in the industry to look at what we're building right now, look at the samples, test things out with us, give us your feedback on it. It's a really, really long journey, but it's really nice for us that we're now able to capitalize on the 3.5 years of R&D that we've put to date.
From my perspective, it is to revolutionize the way that we're sourcing materials. We have finite resources. We need to begin to recognize that and change the way that we do business. And I think that supply chains and the way we source materials can look completely different from what it does in a decade's time. In a decade's time, I think it can be unrecognizable. So that's what we're trying to drive, that's what we're trying to see. My ask, got bananas over here in the corner on this little stand. We actually had 3 bananas there this morning, but people came by and ate them. I'm like, dude, that's part of my display. Anyway, you'll see a single banana, if it's still there, over here in our little corner. Come talk to us about pilots, if you're a brand. This material is in line with conventional pricing of other materials now and getting cheaper by the day. We can produce 1,000 meters of this material a day, and we're still, increasing capacity all the time. So this material is ready to go. What we need now is brands to come and work with on this, to prove out those proof points. And of the 3 pilots we've completed so far, 2 of the 3 have turned into purchase orders. So the proof is there that this can work. We can't wait to speak to a load of brands here this week in order to just demonstrate that further.
I think a lot of the audience are agreeing with everything you're saying, so it's great. Marie?
Well, in the case, first, our ambition, as you mentioned, is that to make European flax linen and hemp the preferred sustainable fibers worldwide. So I would say for European flax linen, well, scaling is not really our topic because we already doubled the surfaces grown in the last 10 years to meet with the increased demand. So here the challenge is rather to continue to raise awareness, knowledge, and continue to team up with the brands so that they know European flax linen better, to include that in their collections. Think, for instance, Xenia's Oasi di Lino collection. I mean, it's a declaration of love for the fiber, so this is the kind of story we like to support. And then there is also European hemp, which is more a starting story. They were still building knowledge, developing R&D, and structuring this new sector. So we think they can have a promising future, but medium-long term, we should not expect instant results, just supporting a sector that is building over time.
Okay, I'm last. So our ambition is big. We are reinventing the supply chain, and we are already doing it. We are deploying biomimicry upstream to pre-treat biomass, to bring chemistry out of the pulping process and engineer cost out of the every stage of the supply chain. We're opening up our feedstocks to agricultural waste, anything that has cellulose in it. It's not just bamboo, which is our commercially available product. So we are transitioning the way that materials are made, just like everyone else up here is as well. And at scale, we're doing it without additional infrastructure, no investment in CapEx, integrating into existing supply chains, and decentralizing it so that we can actually get smaller farms, regenerative farmers integrated into the system.
Thanks everyone for listening, and thank you to the amazing panelists.
Thank you.